Vikings are 0-3. Figured out a way to lose again today at home against the Chargers. Now they go on the road. I remember week 2, they were on the road in Philly, a game they never really looked like they were going to win, and yet they backdoor covered, lost by 6. Week 1, I think, was the stunner, maybe not to you, but to others, when they lose at home to the Buccaneers. Now they're going to go on the road, and they're going to be favorites over the Carolina Panthers. And that, I get that maybe Bryce Young, you're going to the Red Rifle. Andy Dalton didn't exactly work out today. But actually, they're taking money, too. Opens 2.5 on the road, unless it's up to 3. Now, Kevin O'Connell, this is not like busted on the young kids in the NFL, but he was another one of those Mike McDaniels and the Brandon Staley's and Kevin O'Connells. And it looked really good last year when you're 13-4 and winning all those one-score games. It does not look so good this year when you're losing those one-score games. Can you back them as a road favorite?
Yeah, we actually have not only one matchup with 0-3 teams, we have 2.
Oh.
And they're both going to come in the same segment, but we'll start here in Minnesota, Carolina. Yeah, Minnesota gets adjusted up to 3, 44.5 on the total. Bryce Young obviously did not go today for the Carolina Panthers in their defeat at Seattle. But look, Minnesota's moving the football, especially throwing it. So we know that they can throw the ball. Bryce Young missed with the ankle today. A couple other injuries that they've had on defense, and it really showed for Carolina today because defense, I think, is really, when you look at it, the strength of that team. They hung in for a while in the first half. They actually had the halftime lead, but you look at Carolina, gave up 425 total yards, gave up 6 yards of play. Pretty much Seattle was able to do what they wanted offensively in the second half. They just couldn't get it in when they were in the red zone, had to settle for those 4 field goals from Jason Myers in the first half, and actually did not get a touchdown until the end of the third quarter when they finally went up 9. Andy Dalton had to throw 58 times today.
Jeez.
Now, he didn't throw a pick, 361, two touchdowns, so Dalton moved the football. Carolina couldn't run the ball, though. I think they only ran the ball, I believe, 14 times a day for 44 yards. So they could not run the ball a lick today. And you just wonder, I mean, look, Andy Dalton's a veteran. He's capable.
Yeah.
So that's why you actually didn't see much of a line move with Bryce Young out. You actually might have saw a little bit more respect for Carolina in the market today against Seattle because of Andy Dalton, because he is an experienced veteran. But, would lean a little bit Minnesota here, but boy, 0-3 teams, because I wonder about this Minnesota team's psyche, because I know Cousins has had a couple turnovers, but Minnesota to me is not losing because of Kirk Cousins.
Oh no, he leads the league in touchdown passes.
Right.
I mean, Kirk is KC8, as I like to call him. He's doing the best he can with what he has, and I know, and I have these debates all the time with a lot of people that are. Not. It's almost like, well, it's just time to move on from Kirk. And look, that's a discussion that possibly by the trade deadline, the Jets, we see what that looks like with Zach Wilson. There does seem to be logical possibilities if you're really in that, I don't want to say tanking mode for Minnesota, but if you're really trying to say, all right, we're 0-3, this season is lost. Is it already lost? Or if they can win, and again, we just talked about it last hour, that maybe the division, the Lions are 2-1, Packers are 2-1, Bears are awful. And the Vikings, maybe it's not exactly done yet.
I don't know if it's totally lost for Minnesota. It's getting close, but that defense, though, has got to get better. And they made the rightful change. They had to move on from Ed Donatel, but they go to Brian Flores. Brian Flores a little bit more aggressive, wants to blitz a little bit more, but they couldn't get to the quarterback at all today. Justin Herbert was 40 of 47 for 405 and 3 touchdowns. They got 1 sack. Chargers, we know, which we'll get to later, couldn't run the ball. And look, they didn't have Austin Eckler today. So it's a pretty much a one-dimensional offense. But you had a receiver go for 18 catches for 215 yards. Tyler Dragon was talking with us earlier, and that was Keenan Allen.
Wow.
I mean, just ate these guys alive. And, your offensive studs are producing for Minnesota with Cousins, with Justin Jefferson. He had about 150 yards and a touchdown today. Hawkinson, I know, had that fumble, but 8 catches for 78. But Minnesota ran the ball a little bit better with Madison today, 20 for 93. Ty Chandler, 3 for 27. So offense isn't the problem for this team now. Now, they couldn't capitalize in the red zone, especially in the end, and they were 4-14 on third down. That's got to get better. But defensively, if you can't stop anybody and you're giving up 9.3 a pass play, what are you going to do? Now, I don't think Carolina is going to be necessarily capable of taking advantage of that.
Well, then that's where it led me to the total. And I can understand why it's maybe a slight uptick here. To me, it does feel like possibly playable to the over. Just because, as you mentioned, Minnesota's defense has been atrocious. And really, Carolina maybe not showing that should be their strength. But we saw, again, what happened, Andy Dalton having to throw it so often because they're behind so often. Is that possibly a lean? If we don't like the side so much, would we look to that total?
Yeah. I that'd be the only way I would play. And, this is more late in the season, what I call this, Dave, but the happy action fun time when you get the two bad teams that know that they're bad, and it's just offense going forward.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.